Oh, porque mis AirPods no están charged.
I guess I.
And
Um,
sometimes by accident. Yeah. Hey,
okay,
everybody.
great.
Welcome. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Great to see you. Welcome to your first Ignite of the semester. Hey, Mario. Great to see you. Welcome. All right. So today is going to be really great. You can see there's already over 100 people here. We're going to kick it off with a poll. As a
No.
reminder, if you are off mute, go ahead and go on mute just because of the sheer number of people here tonight. Um, but we've got some good poll questions here to kick us off with. So, number one on here, which of these statements best describes you right now? There's a few answers here. I have a hobby or passion. I want to grow into something bigger. I'm exploring different interests, but don't know where to start yet. I'm
Yeah.
curious about entrepreneurship and opportunities, and I'm just here to listen. Um, Miller, was one of these one that stood out to you?
I yes, both. I have a hobby or passion. I want to grow into something bigger, as well as I'm curious about entrepreneurship and opportunities.
Mm,
Those two speak numbers to me.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I love people who are just also here to listen and learn because you never know what might just spark your interest there as well. All right, love seeing these answers pour in. Number two, if you could turn one of your hobbies or interests into a career, which would it be? And there
Look at
is
that.
a slew of answers here.
Yeah. It looks like that art side is flying. Same with the helping people.
Yeah.
Those two are, a lot of people don't realize this, but art and all that sort of stuff also really helps people.
Yeah, it's a great point too. But wow, yeah, there's a huge contingency of creatives out there. I love that tonight is for you guys. This is going to be a good night. All right, next one. What excites you most about learning how passion can turn into business? Pretty evenly split here.
Yeah.
Yeah, learning practical steps I can use right now, hearing real stories of someone who made it happen. Okay, you guys are in for a treat. Uh, Finding inspiration to try something new or understanding how to overcome challenges. Okay, I like the practical steps. I love the practicality of this. Just want to know, okay, I get it. Now, how do I do it? So,
And luckily, I've got towards the end of this, I've got some tips that we can kick off to get started.
I love it. Okay, and then the last question on here, which skill do you think is most important for turning passion into opportunity? And this one, there's a very clear winner right now. In this category, right now, 50% are saying hard work and persistence. We'll see if that number changes a little bit because I know we haven't shared the results yet. But that one is coming in hot. Everything else is spread fairly evenly amongst creativity, learning and teaching yourself new skills, networking, building connections. Right now, that one's one of the lowest ones, but that one's a pretty big deal. And
It's a
then
big deal.
risk taking and trying new things. Um, Very, very interesting. Okay, we still have these flooding in. We've got about 78 of people percent of people have participated. Um, Miller, before we get started, did any of these questions stand out to you?
Yeah, I think I like number two.
Mm.
I like number two, and then I also like the very last one, number four. And I think that this one that's currently kind of sitting around the 50% there, that is a very important thing. And it's something that we'll learn that just never ends. Persistence is so crazily important in this world. But I also think that the last two, networking as well as risk taking, are both pretty important. You
Mm.
know, opportunity doesn't come to you. A lot of times you have to kind of go out and seek the opportunity and maybe take the risk of putting yourself in that position or knocking on that door or whatever it might be. And with that too, if you're knocking on the door, if you're talking to somebody new, well, that's also networking.
I love that. I love that. And I think we talk a lot about pushing comfort zones and adopting a growth mindset and being ready to grow and fail a little bit and
Yeah.
learning and be ready to take those risks. And part of the thing about risks and new things is that there's a degree of accepted failure that comes with that. It's not a bad thing. It's a
You have some recent
necessary.
failure of yourself batting or fielding?
All right. So, as we get going here, we have just about leveled out at about 200 participants. So I'm going to end this poll. Last chance, speak now or forever hold your peace. And we will share the results real quick. A lot of them we were speaking to during this, but one of the biggest things that stands out to me here is like Miller was saying, that 51% saying hard work and persistence is the most important for turning passion into opportunity. It's a big deal. Hard work is super important. But I love that he tied in some of these other things at the bottom are also really critical to succeeding and creating opportunity. So, as we get started now, I have the great pleasure of introducing to you Miller, who's already been able to chat with you all a little bit. I hope you've already gotten a snippet into how he thinks about things and what he does, but I want to tell you a little more before I allow him to go ahead and introduce himself. But tonight he's going to be talking to us about turning what you love into business. You might have seen some of the poll questions are all focused on that idea of taking something you're already passionate about and figuring out a way to turn it into an opportunity. Um, Miller has done all kinds of things. As you may have guessed, he started his career as a magician. Actually, I'm kidding. I think you probably would not have guessed that, but a constant entrepreneur, started at a young age as a magician and uh, just a serial entrepreneur trying thing after thing. And now he has an incredibly successful fashion and manufacturing company. This is one of the top growing businesses in Los Angeles today. And he has done an amazing job with it. And I do want to bring this up all because this is part of his story. He's done this while also experiencing chronic pain. So while growing up and while becoming an adult, he has had to deal with chronic pain. And I think we all here have had different types of challenges, and learning how to overcome challenges and what to do with them and how to turn them into fuel is a super important thing. So I'm really excited to hear his story and his perspective on how he's been able to do what he's done. So, Miller, I will hand it over to you.
Michelle, thank you so much for the warm introduction. And hello, everybody. As Michelle said, my name is Miller McCoy. I have it's a pleasure to be able to speak with everybody tonight. And yeah, the title that I may be coining on this speech is From Passion to Paycheck: How to Turn What You're Good At into Real Life. And so just as a quick little response here, I see a whole lot of faces in here. So maybe just raise your hand. But how many of you guys have had something that you like doing, but you might have been told it's not realistic, or maybe you need to go down another path, or maybe you need to look for something that is more tangible? Have people faced that before? Yeah. Now, I was told that a lot too, right? A lot. I was told that magic, this isn't a job. You're doing card tricks. How can you ever make money doing card tricks, right? To art. Hey, man, that's not going to get you anywhere, right? You can't be an artist. That's so rare, right? It's not going to happen. To designing clothes, right? Man, just, get a regular job, focus on a regular life. Like that, this isn't going to get you anywhere. That's not a job, right? Well, it turns out that nobody who was saying those things to me actually tried doing any of those things, right? And so I was getting information and taking these thoughts from everybody, from people that were not qualified to be telling me and sharing me this information. They had never done any of these things themselves. And so that's kind of the whole premise of this, right? And I'm originally a kid from Des Moines, Iowa. Iowa is a flyover state. It's basically the middle of nowhere. It's actually, if you look at the map of the United States, it is dead in the middle, right? We don't have a big city. Everybody that I grew up with were farmers, or we go into insurance, or we work in a call service center or whatever. That's great, right? But there's no entertainment industry. There's no art industry. There's certainly no fashion industry unless you're working in agriculture for it, right? And none of those things really stuck out to me. Additionally, growing up, and some might say I still have it, although I maybe don't identify with it in my my current life, is chronic pain, right? I grew up with chronic pain and chronic nausea. I missed 90 plus days of school a year. I didn't have time to be in sporting events or hang out with friends or, live a regular life. And so a lot of the times I was stuck in bed. I had very little to do. I didn't really have a lot of people in my life other than maybe my immediate family. Didn't really have a lot of the other opportunities that a lot of the other kids that I was growing up around might have had. Additionally, with all of that, coming from Iowa, we don't have a big city. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections in this industry, right? I didn't have any options. So instead, I simply built skills. And with you guys, I hope that we can learn a little bit on how to build these skills to make ourselves have these options. So with all of this, I kind of built a 4-step loop. And it's really a loop because it never ends. As one of these poll questions here, hard work and persistence, what really speaks to me is that word persistence. It is ongoing. It's never ending. No matter how big in business we get, how big in life we get, the claims to fames that we have, it is never ending. Our problems, well, they might just get bigger, but our solutions to solving these problems get better, right? And so what that loop looks like, it first starts with passion. And from passion, we build skills. And with those skills, we're given opportunity. And with the opportunity, we have to have discipline to see it through. So let's kind of first focus on that passion aspect. For me, my first passion was magic. As Michelle said, I started as a magician. It sounds very odd and it sounds very strange, but for me, it was an escape. For me, as a kid with chronic pain that is laying in bed or in a hospital room or anything like that, and I can't get up, I can't go outside, I can't play, right? But something that I could do and still get enjoyment from is laying in bed, holding a deck of cards because I can still use my hands, and teaching myself magic tricks and card tricks. And from there, I was able to develop a knack for these card tricks. I was unable to spend 6 to 8 hours a day at school and hanging out with friends and doing after school activities and all that sort of stuff. So I just consumed myself with magic and teaching myself how to do these card tricks and all this sort of stuff. And then from magic, it came design. And the way that transition happens, I don't know about you guys or if you guys agree with me, but I love learning. I've always been obsessed with learning, and I really love learning things that I am into, right? Wasn't always into learning some of the other stuff, but stuff that I was into, I would go all in on it. I'm an avid learner, and I think that has a lot to do with growth in our lives as well. But there's a thing called YouTube, and I dove into YouTube University. YouTube is what taught me how to do my first card trick, right? I learned all my magic tricks. I learned how to speak. I did a lot of my learning from a bed or from a hospital or in a doctor's office off of my mom's phone or her laptop or whatever it may be in YouTube. And with YouTube, I was able to learn anything, right? But by the age of 12 years old, and I'm getting on YouTube and I'm seeing, I can literally type in a tutorial for anything, and I can, what is it that I want to learn? And I can figure it out. It might take me an hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, 6 months, right? But I can figure it out. And in fact, I can get decent at it. right? And so I first started with magic, but once I got to a skill level with the magic, that I figured I might be able to start making a little bit of money when I start feeling okay, right? And when I'm not in the hospital, maybe I can do weekend birthday parties, or I could do corporate events, or I could do, all this sort of stuff. But I need a business card. I need a website. I need to be able to put myself out there and make myself findable. But I don't know how to make any of this stuff. I have no money to go hire a designer to make these things for me. I'm a kid from Iowa. We don't even have these companies around me, right? I have insurance and farming companies around my hometown. And so what did I do? I loaded up YouTube, and I watched. When I was 13 years old, I taught myself HTML, which is a kind of an outdated and older coding software, to build my first WordPress website, MillerMcCoyEntertainment.com. And getting on the website and making that website, I now had a digital identity, right? I now had a place that people could go to, they could learn about me, and they could contact me. Now, if they contacted me, they were really sending an email to my mom, but they could still contact me, and my mom could inform me, hey, we've got an inquiry, all this sort of stuff. And with that, I also had to teach myself, well, I need to make business cards. What goes on a business card? Oh, well, I need a logo. And so I was able to teach myself graphic design, to make myself a logo. So I started learning Photoshop, and I started learning Adobe Illustrator, and these creative suites and these creative tools, which now, you can get creative on Canva. You can download Procreate on on an iPad or a phone or a laptop, right? The accessibility to a lot of these tools now are not what it was like when I was first trying to learn, right? And on the website side, we have Wix, we have WordPress, we have Shopify, we've got all these other options, right? And so, I just really dove into YouTube University. And around the age of 15 to 16, my health really started to take a decline. And this was a big deal for me, because from about 12 to 15, 16, it was going the exact opposite way. I was getting better. I was able to really start performing larger magic shows. I joined I made a magic trio. It was myself and two others, and we were actually traveling all around the state and around the Midwest doing fair shows at our county fairs. I was able to 1 week in the summer, I was able to go to Las Vegas and also go to the Magic Castle, which is like this prestigious club in Los Angeles, and perform magic as a kid at a very high level. I was entering award shows and doing, magic shows, competitions, all this sort of stuff. America's Got Talent, all of these really fun and awesome things. And around the age 15 and 16, my health plummeted. And I had to spend basically a whole summer in and out of the hospital, right? And unfortunately for me, that summer, I already had booked up with magic shows. So unfortunately, once I was able to kind of get out of the hospital, I was kind of able to reroute myself. I had burnt some bridges in the magic community. I had booked myself for a handful of magic shows that I was not able to go and perform at, and I wasn't able to find a replacement to, right? And so I had, my original love, my original passion of magic, it was beginning to almost slip away from me. And as Michelle said, I've always been an entrepreneur, and I wasn't going to let this circumstance kind of be the end of Miller McCoy. I'm a young kid. I'm learning. I've got a lot to live for, right? And so that's where I go, what other skills have I learned through doing this magic stuff? And well, the one that stood out right away to me, because even if I'm sick or even I can get on a laptop and I can design. And I was pretty good at design. I was able to build websites. I could use Photoshop and Illustrator all proficiently, all all of these creative suites. I was a creative kid, right? I had this artistic knack to me. And so I began putting myself out there. I was on Fiverr. I was on Upwork. I was just looking for gigs. How, I'm not in school today, but how can I go make $50, right? How can I use a skill that I've learned that doesn't matter if I'm in my room, if I'm in a hospital, if I'm sitting right here, right? How can I still utilize my skills, right? I like doing, I like learning, I like growing, and I like improving, right? And so you do all those things by just continually doing, right? And so with the design side, I began putting myself out there. I also played some video games on the PlayStation, and I would be in a lobby and I'd be talking to people, and they're in a clan and they're making a YouTube video for it. It's like, oh, hey, well, I do graphic design. Let me make your title page, or let me make, oh, you're a live streamer. Let me make your banners and your headers, right? All this sort of stuff. And so I began just kind of self-advertising in any place that I really could to just sell my services. And in fact, there was countless times, there was years of times where I wasn't even selling it. I was just doing it. I was just getting better at it, right? And the occasional one that I could sell on Fiverr, Upwork, I had the opportunity and I took advantage of it, right? And then where I'm from in Iowa, right? Graphic design at that point in time wasn't really, it wasn't very sought after. The viewpoint in today's world was a lot different then on graphic design, right? I'd make something really cool. I'd make an abstract piece of art that I love, that I think is awesome, right? And I'd flip my computer around and I'd show it to somebody and I'd say, hey, take a look at this. Kind of look at it, just brush it off. It's like, cool, dude, but like, you didn't paint that. You didn't draw that. You clicked some keys on a keyboard and you made it on a computer, right? Like it doesn't mean anything to me, right? And I started, there were other places that were seeing the value in what I was doing, but the people near and dear to me, they weren't really seeing maybe what I saw from doing it. And so I was thinking to myself, how can I make this more tangible? How can I make them understand it, right? And it clicked to me. I need to make something physical. I need to get this off of a computer screen and get it in their hands, right? And that's where it just hit me. Okay, well, this would look good on a t-shirt, or this would look good on a hat, or this would be a cool sticker, or this would be a cool poster, right? I can take my art off of my computer. I can put it onto something tangible, and I can go to a website like Redbubble or Vistaprint or whatever, and I can make a physical product, right? So I began doing that. And I wasn't focused so much on making the nicest quality clothes or doing anything along those lines at first. At first, it was just, let me get this on a product and show it to somebody. And when I did that, the reactions began to change. It wasn't so much, it's just on a computer, like who cares, to, oh, this is a cool t-shirt, right? And then that's where it started kind of snapping to me. Okay, well, they're liking this and I'm getting enjoyment out of this, and I can, sell my t-shirts for $30 or whatever it is, right? There's a potential here, right? And so then my passion changed from magic to design. And this is where it starts evolving into fashion, right? And so I began taking all the designs that I'm doing. I began putting them all on products. I'm putting them on t-shirts. I'm putting them on hats. I know how to build a website. Shopify came out around this time. I go, okay, bingo, let me make a Shopify, right? And so now I'm making an actual storefront. I'm making an actual brand. I'm putting a name to my brand. I'm listing all these products. I'm ordering some products so that way I have them in my room. I have them around me. At this point in time, I was probably 17 years old or so. I'm able to get around. I'm able to see people and stuff like that. When I go to school, I just have them stuffed in a backpack, and anybody that's like, oh, that's a cool t-shirt, I'd say, thank you, I've got another one. Are you interested? Pull out a t-shirt, right? And so it was really just that transition, right? Going from step to step. And eventually I was able to build out a large enough brand where I was from, right? In Iowa, which, by the way, Iowa has an extremely low ceiling for this, right? This was probably 2015 or so, 2016. And there was nobody else really doing it. Nobody was really understanding the vision and stuff like that. But my online presence began to draw an audience in places like New York and Florida and Los Angeles. And I was also beginning to work with a lot of different musicians. I would send people basically press kits, right? PR boxes. I would make, 50 t-shirts. I'd fold up a t-shirt. I'd put it in a box. I'd write a note. I'd DM their manager on Instagram, or I'd get in contact from them on their email or whatever. And I just ship them over the box, right? Not expecting anything, hoping that I'll see them wearing the t-shirt or whatnot. And that's when things really started clicking. A lot of people in my hometown thought what I was doing was a joke, right? And then all of a sudden they see their favorite rapper wearing my clothing brand. And they're like, wait, what is this? This is different. And then they see their favorite influencer wearing my hat. And then, and all this sort of stuff just started clicking. And at that point in time, I was beginning to get some good online sales. I was building up some traffic. I was stacking away and stashing all my money that I was making from this thing. And I built up enough, a little bit of enough cash stack where I was able to drive out to Los Angeles. Mind you, this is a story for a different time. But when I drove out to Los Angeles, I had shattered my left leg all the way from my knee down to my ankle. There lots of different health stuff going on. Whole lot of different stuff. But I was just like, I need to get closer to where the opportunity is. I don't know how to get there. I don't know what I'm going to do when I'm there fully, but I'm going to get there, and I'm just going to try to make it happen. I'm going to put myself in the room where I can make these opportunities happen, because they're not going to come to me, right? And so I was able to drive out to Los Angeles, begin working closer with a lot of the musicians and influencers that I was styling, right? And at this point in time, now I'm showing up to their music video shoots. Now I'm going to their houses. Now I'm going to their studio sessions. I'm styling them, and for all these different events that they're doing. And slowly but surely, a few of them began to look at me. The first one, I don't know if he's still popular or not. His name's Trippy Red, if anybody knows him. But he ends up looking at me. He goes, "Hey, these are pretty cool clothes, Miller. I'm interested. Are you able to make my stuff? I know you're making your own clothes, but like, can you stop making your clothes and make them for me, or just also make them for me?" Right? And so that's when my passion began to transition directly from fashion into manufacturing. So this is your passions will always change, but your passions will build you skills. Following those skills will lead you to new opportunities, and you have to have the discipline to see those opportunities through, right? Now, when you're 16 years old, like I was when I was getting out of magic and transitioning into design, you're not supposed to know what your forever thing is. And if you do when you're 16, that is a blessing, right? That is amazing, right? But it's okay not to know what your forever thing is when you're 16. And in fact, your passion when you're 26, like I am today, versus 16, your passions can change. And that's okay too, right? Your first passion is just proof that you're curious for this lifestyle. It's not necessarily your life sentence, right? So the second step is your limitations are never your disadvantage, right? I was able to teach myself and learn all of these skills and traits and stuff like this as a kid with chronic pain who's not able to show up to school, who's not able to be there for a lot of individuals in my life. I'm stuck at home. I'm not from a big city. I don't have a lot of money to my name. I don't have the opportunities that some circle or around me or in my town had. I had to use these negativities and turn them into some level of positivity so that way I could live a grateful and blissful life. And trust me, I spent, this was a battle for my whole entire life up until maybe the age of 22, 23. But I spent years of my life not knowing what side of the coin to look at. Are these, are a lot of these things that are happening to me, are they just, are they going to be the downfall of me, or are they going to be the side that uplifts me? Right. And so I chose to look at the side that hopefully this is going to be the thing that uplifts me, and I'm not going to give up till it doesn't, yada, yada, yada. So when you don't have money, you trade it for effort, right? And when you don't have connections, you simply trade it for volume, right? When you don't have those two things, you only have yourself. And so you just have to do more, keep doing it, and keep doing more. The third point that I want to touch on here is the curiosity that turns into skills, right? So for me, I started first with the passion of magic, right? But with that simple passion, right, I had to be curious about how to make it work. I began learning the basics of business. I began learning the basics of design, right? These were all things that I was curious about, but at that point in time, my main goal and my main focus was the magic, right? And so all of these skills that I'm learning through my curiosity is really what has ended up getting me to where I'm at today, right? And I was able to learn these skills with my curiosity through YouTube, through trial and error, through failing, like we mentioned before, Michelle, countless times, and still to this day, and still tomorrow, and the next day, and a year from now, and 10 years from now, right? And then repetition, volume, reps matter, right? And that's what actually ends up getting you to the position. At this point in time, I work with close to 3,000 different brands and artists and influencers to help manufacture their product. When I did it the first time for Trippy Red and that story, I had no idea what I was doing. When I did it the 10th time, I knew a little bit more of what I was doing. Now that I've done it 3,000 times, I know how to do it at a pretty high level, right? And it's taken me years and failure after failure, win after win to get to this point. Essentially, you don't get paid for passion. You get paid for the skills that solve people's problems. And hopefully you can turn your passions into those skills that can solve people's problems, right? Such as design. If you're an artist, right, your design can become a skill that can solve somebody's need. When I was sitting there obsessed with design and somebody needed to make a logo for their website, I knew how to do that. And that became a part of my passion. So let me do this, right? The fourth note that I want to touch on is start before you're ready. And what I mean by that is confidence is rented and it's paid for by action, right? So the phrase fake it till you make it is very real as long as you're trying to make it, as long as you're putting in the work and you're actually doing the actions, right? If you're just faking it till you make it and you're just always saying it, but you're never actually doing it, right? It's not going to get you anywhere. Sometimes you're not going to feel ready, right? But you still tried. When the first opportunity to manufacture clothes came to me, I genuinely had no idea what I was doing or how to do it. I just said yes. And I took the opportunity. And it could have gone one of two ways for me, right? But I wouldn't have known if I shut it down right away, right? I went from ordering 30 of my own t-shirts to Trippy Red saying, hey, I need 10,000 of these sweatshirts, right? And when you're messing with a $30 sweatshirt as a young kid, that changes everything, and so I didn't feel ready at that point in time, right? But I took the opportunity anyway, and I used the skills that I had slowly been building along the way to get it done as best as I could. And was it sloppy? Oh, you bet. Was it ugly? It wasn't pretty, right? But I still put in the effort. I still tried. And in fact, I was able to make a long-lasting relationship out of that, right? So when you feel scared, right, it doesn't mean stop, right? When you feel scared, a lot of times it just means you're early. And being early is okay. It's not a fearful thing, right? Don't overcome and consume to the fear of it and have you miss out on the opportunity that it may bring. Dive deeper into it, step into it, take it on face on, right? The fifth one is creating opportunities and not waiting for opportunities, right? So this is big for all of us. And with this, there's some tangible stuff that we can literally do, right? So I still, to this day, and in fact, it's one of the integral parts of my business. Remember when I was talking about my clothing line and all this sort of stuff, and I'd get it into the hands of famous people or influential people, I would just get on Instagram, or I'd find their email, or I'd find their manager or whatever, and I'd send them an email. I'd send them a DM, right? I'd try to get in contact with them. That's cold outreach, right? Now, for every 100 shots, 100 messages that I sent, 50 of them went silent. The other 49 of them said, get out of here. I don't care about you. But then there's that one that says, here's my address, send me the package, right? So that's accepting the rejection, right? And not being afraid of the rejection, not being afraid of the fears that come with it, right? And still putting myself out there, taking the shots, putting shots on goal to hopefully get that one, right? And now multiply those numbers by the thousands. I've said I've worked with about 3,000 different brands here. I've probably reached out to 300,000 throughout these years, right? So it's a very small percentage, but those small percentages, each job begins to really add up. And that's really how you're going to be able to develop get the opportunities, because they're not just going to come to you. Occasionally an opportunity falls in your lap. And when that happens, take advantage of it, seize the day, jump on it right away. But most of us are not in the position where the opportunities just happen to fall into our laps, right? So feel free to cold email, feel free to cold DM, do a little research and find somebody's manager, find somebody, whatever it is that you're into, find the person that you want to try to get in contact with. Rejection isn't personal. It's just math when you think about it in sales, right? Or you think about it in business. If I reach out to 100 people, 50 of them ghost me, 49 of them tell me to go kick dirt, and one of them responds, well, if I want 10 people to respond, I need to reach out to 1,000 people, right? And it's just math, right? So volume and reps is what's going to give you your breakthroughs or your overnight success, as some people like to put it, right? Now, the sixth thing is what you can do right now, right? What is it that we can do right now? So tonight, this week, whenever you've got time, however fast you want to jump on this, right? I encourage you to just pick one thing that it is that you like, one thing that you're passionate about, one thing that you hope and wish that you can be doing, right? And just spend for the next month, 30 minutes a day working on it, focusing on it, learning about it, watching YouTube videos on it, right? And say that thing is, I can speak from personal experience here. Say that thing is fashion. You want to make a brand, right? Make something ugly. It's not going to be a win. Odds are the first thing that you create probably going to be pretty ugly, like mine were, right? But make it anyway. And also share it. Share it anyway. It doesn't matter. Volume and reps are what are going to get you your breakthrough, right? And throughout the month of doing this, right? It's a fresh month. We just started February. And it's the shortest month. So it's also maybe the easiest month to be doing this, right? But begin building a folder of work, whether that's on the design side, right? Say once a week or once a day, right? Whatever you can commit to, make something, whether it's ugly, pretty, great, bad, who cares? Just make a folder of work. The next step, cold outreach to 10 people throughout this month. Now, mind you, they're all probably not going to respond to you, and that's okay, right? Silence is okay. Rejection is okay, right? But just share with these 10 people what it is that you're building, what it is that you're doing. And then ask, if you get anybody that's responding to them, ask questions and not favors. right? When you're first in your early phases of this development, right? This business world, you're pursuing your passions, right? Things like that. Ask questions. It's a lot easier to hold a conversation with somebody by asking questions with them and learning a lot more than it is to get that $100 from them. And the odds are, what maybe if these are bigger people in the space or whatever, the learnings and the teachings that they might be able to give you through the questions are probably worth a lot more than that $100. So all of this being said, we're going to close around discipline, right? Discipline is what will turn your talents into true freedom, right? Being talented is one thing, but if you don't use these talents, if you don't use these skills that you're practicing and getting better at each and every day, it's going to be a little bit hard to grow out of it. You're going to need to show up when it's boring. You're going to need to put in the work when you don't want to. You're going to need to deal with the rejection. You're going to need to face the silence. You're going to get ghosted all the time. People are going to call you crazy. People are going to say, oh, you can't do that. You can't do this. You can't do that, right? That's not who we are. That's not where we come from. You don't have that opportunity like they have that opportunity. Prove them wrong. Stick at it. So, in closing, your background does not decide your ceiling, but your efforts, those certainly do. Nobody's coming to save you, but that's actually the good news, because it means that the future is truly in your hands. So use what you have, where you are, and start today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miller. I know it's the quietest applause you've ever heard before. Seeing all of those hands clapping all along. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing so much today.
Absolutely, Michelle.
That was awesome. And I love that the mix of hearing your story and a lot of those very practical tips on very concrete steps to do today or this month or whatever it may be. So I appreciate that. Right now, we still have about 20-ish, 25-ish minutes, I guess 20-ish minutes left today. And I would love to hear some questions from you all. Go ahead and drop them in the chat. I think I did see one earlier. People were definitely fascinated by your career in the magic world. And one question was fairly simple: just have you seen the movie Now You See Me? Have you seen that movie? A lot of likes.
All right, now You See Me growing up was like my favorite movie ever, and they recently just released, I think it's like Now You See Me #4.
Wow.
I think it's #4. And I drug my wife to it, even though she was like, what is this movie? I don't know what this is. But yes, growing up, there were, a handful of, there's another movie called like The Prestige, and anything that had anything to do with magic, I would always go and see it in theaters, and just leaving, I would just feel so excited and just so into it. So yes, I've seen Now You See Me. I love the movies. And if you've seen, I think it's Now You See Me #1 or Now You See Me #2, there's a card trick where he holds it, the opening scene, he holds a deck of cards to the camera. He riffles through the cards. You see like the 7 of diamonds or whatever. He throws the cards up, and then the building behind him says the 7 of diamonds. But as I said, I learned a lot from YouTube, right? After I went and saw the movie, I was like, I have to learn that magic trick. Went home, YouTube the magic trick, figured it out, and I began doing it.
That is so funny. I love it though. See, so how inspiring it is to be able to get in. You can get inspiration from anywhere. And then I love that you're like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to make it happen then.
Learn it. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, I'm going to switch to a more practical question here.
Sure.
Jezebella asked, what strategies would you suggest when cold emailing? I know you talked about some things earlier, but would love to know if you have any specific strategies there.
Yeah, the main strategy that I have, and it's not a pretty strategy, but it goes to a lot of the things I said there. Volume. That is the main strategy that I have. If I cold email 5 people right now, I bet I don't get a response. But if I spend the next 4 hours and cold email 500 people, I bet I could get a response. But going a little bit more tangible, right? And on the side of hoping to get a response, subject line. There, depending on what it is that you're doing and how you're selling it, for me, something that works quite well. And, I will simply put in the subject line, Miller McCoy, first and last name. I will put there's like a straight up and down dash. And then I put my phone number. And then I put another dash. Great meeting you. And, it stands out in the email subjects, right? When somebody's going there to check their email, and that great meeting you almost causes a internal crisis to the person that's reading it because they have no idea who I am. Right. And so they open it and they read the email. Now, if the email's decent, maybe they're going to be like, well, maybe I met him. I'm out here in Los Angeles, and I'm heavily in the entertainment space where there's always events. There's always networking parties, things like that going on. Right. Well, maybe I met him at this event. Maybe I met him over there, whatever it may be. And sometimes I get a dial, or sometimes I get an email back. So that's unique subject lines, and however you can cause a internal reaction to the person that's reading it, ideally in a positive way.
I think that's awesome advice. I love it because it's very concrete too. It's like, okay, so here's something. If you're going to cold talk to a lot of people, what's a way to stand out or grab that attention? And I love that framing of cause an internal stir for them, make them feel something. And I think that's a huge idea. I love that. I'm going to transition to a different kind of question. There's a few people actually who specifically asked about humility and humbling experiences. So Julia here asks, what was your most humbling moment?
Yeah. Most might be
challenging.
Might be challenging. There's been a lot of them. One of them that I will say, and forgive me because I also story tell a lot of the things that I talk about. I'll try to cut it short though. So I was 21 years old. I had an opportunity to work with one of the largest hip hop artists out of New York. He had recently left his major label. He was independent sort of deal, but he was putting on a tour. And I had met his manager outside of a party, and networked with the manager. The manager ended up, we ended up exchanging email or phone numbers. I was wearing one of the hoodies that was my brand. He goes, "Oh, like this is sweet. Like, I'm super interested in it. Right? Let's connect tomorrow." I wake up the next morning. I have a text message, and it was, "Hey, I had to go take a red eye to New York, but I left a hoodie on my, here's my address. Left a hoodie out on my porch." Sent me a photo of it. I went and picked up. I had no idea who this guy was, by the way. I went and picked it up. I didn't know he was a manager, right? I went and picked it up, flipped it over, saw it was some merchandise for a really, really large New York artist. I go, "Oh my gosh, okay." I end up telling him, "Oh yeah, I can make this, no problem. It's all good." He's like, "Okay, great." A month or so goes by. I then get a phone call, and it's the manager guy, and he goes, "Hey, you make you make merchandise. You told me that you can make these hoodies. You're in the space. You're in the industry. We've got a 40-day tour coming up in 2 weeks. I don't have a team to run the merchandise or run support or anything like that. You do that, don't you?" "Yes, sir, I do. That's exactly what I do." Mind you, I'm not old enough to rent a van at this point in time, right? I don't even know really how to build I've never done the only cross-country road trip I've ever done was driving in a straight line from Iowa to Los Angeles, right? I don't know how to calculate what it is that I just signed myself up for. And I have 2 weeks to figure this, make merchandise, find a rental van, get general liability insurance and all this sort of stuff, and then go on a 40-day tour. Anyway, pulled it off very ugly, right? But on day one of the tour, there was another artist named Earl Sweatshirt who was also on the show. He was like the supporting act for the tour. And I'm working with the headline act. And I get there, and Earl's got a professional team. Some, they're from Warner Studios, they're big deal, right? I show up 20 minutes before the doors open for the show. I'm in a crappy rental van. I haven't even set up any of the merchandise or anything. I walk in. These guys have a beautiful setup. They've got POS systems that are fully registered. Everything's hooked up and working. I come in with boxes of T-shirts and I just slap them on a table and I begin selling. The way it was humbling was I had to learn that if I did that again, there's going to be no more of doing that. Right. And it was my first time actually meeting the artist that was headlining the tour. And he came right up to the merch booth and he looked at me and he goes, "This is what you got for me?" And it was not a very good experience. And it was super humbling. And I thought, as a 21-year-old dude that has this opportunity and got the call, I was on top of the world. And that one interaction just humbled me real quick. I said, okay, I've got to get in the car and drive to Seattle right after the show. And I'm going to try to figure this out and learn how to do it and make mine look like his. So, yeah.
I love that. I do have a follow-up question because I'm very curious about this. I think you mentioned something that I personally think is super important earlier about being able to take advantage of opportunities before you necessarily feel ready to. And I feel like this is a very good moment that describes that. Like,
Exactly.
I'm not ready to, did it anyway. So I would love to know, you talked about a couple behaviors you changed, then you're like, okay, how do I do this differently now? Were there any major overarching things that you now keep in mind when trying to do things that are maybe beyond what you currently know or beyond your current depth? And you're like, I'm still going to try something new, but having learned from that experience, here are a couple tidbits you're taking with you.
Yeah. And I'm never going to I never turn down when I find a good opportunity, never going to turn it down. Right. And one of the tidbits that I do is in a very polite way and in a very respectful way to also make sure, respectful of myself and my business and my clients, to make sure I also don't lose the gig, is I try to set realistic expectations out the gate. Right. I wouldn't have changed anything about that last situation that I just said, right? I lost money doing that tour, even though like in my 21-year-old brain, I invoiced him an insane amount. But then like after driving a rental van across the whole, literally across the whole entire United States and having to eat Chick-fil-A 3 times a day, every day but Sundays, right? Like I lost money on the thing. I learned way more from that opportunity than any dollar amount could have been exchanged, right? But setting realistic expectations for myself and for the people that I'm servicing, right? And that's not to sell yourself short, right? That's not what I'm saying. Don't sell yourself short. Still take the opportunity, but make some clear and level-headed judgments about the opportunity that you're taking, right? And so like there's an opportunity on my table right now that's with a very, very, very large brand, and they want me to do a service that my company doesn't provide. And I've told them straight up, look, I'm happy to try. I have built my business and I've built my lifestyle around taking opportunities and just learning how to do it. But I don't know how smooth these next 3 months with this opportunity are going to be. Right now, at the end of the 3 months, I'll probably learn a lot. And by month 6, it'll probably be pretty smooth, but you got to hang with me till then.
Awesome. I think that's really good advice and a very solid, like concrete thing to take in wherever you go. So thank you for sharing about that. We might have time for a couple more questions. One question I thought was really interesting, is that Ashley's asking here, what if you don't have a true passion? Or what if you have more than one? Because a lot of what you've talked about is choosing something, diving into it deeply. So if that's not how a person's feeling right now, what would be your first piece of advice?
Yeah. So I'll start with the if you have more than one. Might be a little easier for me. If you have more than one, just pick one, right? If you got 10 things that you really love and you're stuck between all 10 of them, right now, just pick one of the 10, right? And just give it a try. Again, my original passion was magic, right? And I'm in manufacturing and business today, right? It's kind of a weird string of events, right? But you'll learn some skills by just doing. Now, let's get to the other side. What happens if you don't have a passion, right? That's okay too, right? Not all of us, again, when you're when you're 16, when you're however old you are there, I don't know, but it's okay. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. Life changes, right? But what I would still heavily encourage you doing is trying something, putting yourself out there. Michelle, I know something that you had said earlier, a big thing is stepping outside of your comfort zone. That is so true. And basically, that experience with that too, or the experience with me getting into the sensory, my whole entire life has been me getting out of doing what I'm comfortable doing and just trying something new. And if I try something new and I find out I'm pretty good at it, odds are I'm going to stick with it. If I find out I'm not very good at it, well, that's okay too, because I just learned. And I'm obsessed with learning. I'm obsessed with growing. I'm obsessed with getting better. And we get much better, much faster through our failures than we do through our successes. And the more things that you can fail at and the more hobbies or passions or not passions that you try, the quicker it is that you'll learn, yeah, that's not for me. That's not for me, right? Yeah.
I love that. And I'm going to tie it actually also to something else you said earlier that I liked a lot. You said something like having asking questions or trying something shows more of a curiosity and a lifestyle. It's not a life sentence. And
Yeah.
I think that was a really important thing for me. And hearing you say it, I was like, oh yeah, I've experienced that a lot where I feel like, oh, if I choose this and I dive into it, what if I dive into it a whole bunch and I realize it's not for me? And having that simple answer of, okay, then
Yeah.
stop doing it. Like that's
Yeah.
great. You can pivot. That's okay. I think there are things where when you make a commitment and when you decide to do something, it is a decision that's difficult to go back on. Getting a face
Absolutely.
tattoo can be difficult to go back on. You can still get it removed, but that's an example of something where it's like that's a commitment.
That's a
But most
commitment.
decisions are not like that. But we put pressure on ourselves to feel like that sometimes. So I liked that idea that exploring a lifestyle is very different from a life sentence. It's not a life sentence. It's exploring something and seeing what you think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. So I know there's so many questions in here. I would love to, yeah, the survey is in here, and while the survey is up, so you all know we love to know what you think about things, what you're taking away from things. And this is worth a point. So please fill out this survey. Kim has dropped it in the chat. And while you are doing this, I think the number one thing the crowd has been asking for is a magic trick. I don't know if you're prepared to do one right now. But there's a lot of questions on here. Do you have the ability to do it or no?
My wife and I just moved into a new townhouse, and I don't think I have a deck of cards. But let me take a look for something.
Okay. So while he's looking for his deck of cards, he just did a great disappearing act. So just log that in your mind that counts as a magic trick too. Go ahead and start filling out that survey. Okay, here we go.
I don't have a deck of cards, but I do have a pen. Um, Now I don't know if anybody else has ever faced this, but sometimes like sometimes the inside of your ears can itch, and so you can do that sort of. I don't know. You might be able to itch it. Well, for me, I have to use my brain all day, and sometimes the inside of my brain also itches. So you can sometimes just get so sometimes you can itch the brain like that, and you can get it out. But then other times there's this really weird soft spot that's actually located inside of inside of the hand, and a lot of times I don't know if this pen's going to be sharp enough. You need something sharp, but you can essentially push something through the hand and pull it out and have it not like make a hole. But let's try this here. So I've got the pen. One, I don't know if it's going to be sharp enough. Two, three.
Oh my gosh, those were all so
That's a little pen
good.
magic for you.
I love it. I know you're gonna get. I was like, this is gonna be the quietest round of applause once again, but we're getting.
I see. Oh, I see. Yeah, it's flooded with the emojis.
And so many comments. How do you do that? How do you do that? Like all kinds of things going on. Someone just wrote Riz, you've got it all. So
let's go.
Miller, thank you. Oh, and Anthony says in all caps, that's why he's the GOAT. So just
thank you,
know
Anthony.
that you are nailing it. Thank you so much for your time today, Miller. Truly appreciate it. Everything from the magic tricks to the words and the tips you gave. Truly, truly amazing things to share. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. And everyone, thank you for coming out today. We will see you again in about a month at our next Ignite. But otherwise, thank you so much and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Miller. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you later.
Bye.